When we talk about being emotionally intelligent or living an emotionally intelligent life, the axiom comes to mind from Plato that the unexamined life is not worth living. It brings to mind that we can think, we can be self aware, we can change, we can grow. People can examine their life. But I've found that very few people really do that. They don't ponder, they don't really think about what they can do to improve. And they don't really have a game plan. One of the things that you learn if you're paying attention is that success leaves clues. It's not really a secret. And when you get to the end of your life, you're going to look back and think about how well you lived it, the regrets you might have, the experiences you had. When I look at this picture, I think of someone reviewing in their mind their life. Did I live it? Did I taste it? Did I share it? Right? Did you get the most out of it? I think of my Armenian ancestors and all that they went through. And I picture, let's say my great great grandfather going through what he did and kind of looking forward in time and sending me a message, which is, hey, if you really understood everything I'm going through and what I had to do to get you where you are, you better live your life to the greatest capacity that you can to show me how much you appreciate what I did. And so I think of my dad and I think of his legacy and what he left to me. And, I've thought about how does anyone really know if any of us have lived? You know, how do you live a life that people will remember? And most people who live the most successful, let's say, fulfilling lives, have a couple of things that they do that ensure that success. And there's two things I want to have you go through to put those two things in place, starting right now. The first thing is an exercise I want you to go through, and it starts with this matrix here. Each year, each box represents 1 year of your life. Let's say I'm 47. So what I want you to do is go into this box and basically cross out every year up to the year that you are. Okay, so I've blocked out 47 years. Then I want you to start at 100 years and back down the number of years to where you anticipate retirement. So I'm going to project that that's 70. The boxes that remain for me are these. Visually, what do you think? I have that many boxes left to really strategize what I want to do with my life before I get to an age where life will start to lay upon me what I can and can't do, where my own kind of desires and free agency are going to be more limited. So I want you to look at that and think about what that means for you. What level of urgency does it give you to try to get the most out of life? Think about traveling and doing all the things that you can physically while you're younger. If you remember the story of the person that learned one new thing each year, this is how many years you basically have to try and implement that. And so maybe if you haven't listed that out yet, I want you to do that. Put in 2018, write in what you're going to do, what you're going to learn this year, next year, and the year after that. So I'll give you an example. For me, here's my list starting in 1991 of what I have learned each year. So if you go back, I could kind of put in each of these boxes, right? When I was right here is where I started this new learning, let's say, method. Go through and figure out what your next 3 years are going to be. Then go ahead and map out, let's say, a 10-year period. So start to at least collect some thoughts on what each of those things is going to be as an overlay to this. And as you look at the yellow boxes remaining for you, I want you to think about your age, like I said. So if there's certain things you want to learn that will require really good health or strength, that kind of thing, you're probably going to want to do those sooner rather than later. The second aspect is to figure out what would benefit other people more. Let's say, for example, your granddaughter is born deaf. You might decide because of that that you're going to learn sign language so that She grows up with a grandparent that is fluent in sign language. And you can be that person, right, that benefits and has that kind of special relationship with her. However, you want to figure out what you're going to do each year, go through and structure it out and put in your box at least for the next 3 years and what you're currently engaged in this year. And if you don't know for this year and you haven't done this yet, put that in, like figure it out. Take some time this week to do that. I also want you to go in and list out on this tab here, like I have, what you've already done. And it may not be in this structure, right? But what do you know how to do at this point in your life? What are all the individual skills and talents and hobbies and things that you have a pretty strong command of? Could teach other people the do's and don'ts, right? The ins and outs of any of these things. I'd like you to have a list, a my talents list, let's say, so you can kind of get a catalog of what you know at this point in your life. If you are looking at your life as if you are in the future in the end, like that picture of that gentleman, who are you? What do you know? What are you known for? What's the word you want people to think when they hear your name? What do they associate you with? What attribute, one attribute, would you hope that people would associate with you when they think of you? What does your family look like? What's your financial situation? Where have you traveled? What languages do you know? What talents do you have? All of those things. Living the emotionally intelligent life is to understand that we affect that end far more than I think we recognize. Another unique component that leads to a more happy and successful life is establishing a morning priming. So that's your morning routine that sets the stage for the rest of the day. I've kind of come up with a structure that I think helps touch on all of the really critical components that I've researched and found that most people try to touch on before the day starts. So the first thing I'd like you to actually do is write in your journal what your current morning routine is, if you have one at all. And if you don't, like, write that in there. There might be some things that you kind of do, but not really. Put that in, like define what you have, if there's a routine at all. Now, here's the routine that I've been following for about 6 months for myself as I applied these same techniques. So the first thing is hydration. So every night I have a bottled water sitting on my bedside. So the first thing I do when I wake up in the morning is I drink that whole thing. So just glug, 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 glug. And then I go and I get my gym bag. Okay, I have that all ready to go. Right when I get into the gym, you touch on the perspiration. Okay, so I like to have a playlist. I like to listen to certain music that really stimulates the energy for the workout to get the most out of it. And I really think that the music is also important to kind of reconnect to some of those things that you love and that make you feel better. Okay, after I'm done with the workout, I go in for meditation, which is basically can just be, I find a secluded place to generate your thoughts and feelings of gratitude and or prayer, however you want to look at that. For me, it's a prayer, right? But I stop and I think, and there's a steam room there, and I love that. So I go in and I'm usually alone. So I just close my eyes and think about things that I'm really grateful for. And I kind of send out the good vibes and pray for people that are on my mind. And I always try to think of different people and really try to think about what's happening right now, things that I'm aware of. Like, for example, I just found out this morning a person that was influential in my life as a young men's leader, a youth leader, that he passed away. He's in my thoughts, right? So that I took some of the time today while I was in the steam room to think about him. And so that's usually about 5 minutes. And then I go from this meditation to kind of inspiration, right? So sometimes when I'm still at the gym, I might do this during my workout, like on my stationary bike or something. But I try to already have like some bookmarks and things to YouTube videos that are inspirational. So it could be a video, it can be just music piece that you listen to, an article that you read while you're kind of on the stationary bike or something like that. but I always try to get some kind of real uplifting and thought-provoking injection of something that's a part of that mixture. And then the final piece is the motivation. And so kind of connecting to the why and what my motivations are for the day. What are the things that I want to prioritize and really make sure and get done and connect with, so that as I prioritize my day, I'm connecting to the things that are really most important, and that those should motivate my actions rather than just kind of walking in and seeing what fires are there to put out, having a real structure to it. So here's an example of my morning priming. And I would like you to think through these things and see what you could do to structure your morning differently and more effectively, and try and come up with your version of these core Asians that if you plug into your life, you're going to see how much more productive your day is than it's been. And you'll also recognize that the bugs that you're working on, the self-improvement methods that you're putting in place for this life prime, right? All of those things, because you structure things out just like that. If you structure your morning, the rest of your day is much more likely to be productive and structured and effective. And so your results will go up dramatically. But there's a part of your life wheel right now, it's out of balance. And so the one thing I also think about when it comes to the morning priming is this idea that the world is so full of negativity that it's hard not to just generally become more negative as a byproduct. So if you think about negativity like a calorie, and you know that idea that if somebody, that a pound is equal to 3,500 calories, right? So let's say you're a 250-pound guy and you generally, without any exercise, will burn 3,000 calories in a day, okay, just to maintain your weight. So basically we know, right, that 1 pound equals a calorie deficit of 3,500. You can reduce your daily intake of calories, or you can increase your daily burn rate, or a combination of both, right? But as soon as you have a deficit of 3,500 calories, that's equal to 1 pound. Okay, so you can reverse engineer, if I want to lose this many pounds, this is how many calories you'd have to have a deficit of over that time period. So in the same way that weight kind of creeps up on us if we're not kind of paying attention to how many calories we consume, the idea of negativity can be viewed that way as well. Okay, so negativity equals calories. You can take really almost any bug, okay, that you're trying to work on, right, and think of it in this calorie count type way. It's really interesting, okay? So think about this. If you listen to politics, if you watch the news, if you have a particularly negative spouse, okay, if you have a lot of stress going on because you're out of work, right? There's all these different things going on, right? And if you think about like how difficult something might be or how negative something might be, that's the calorie rich type of meal you're consuming. And just like someone who's kind of binge eating and not really thinking they have the whole bag of like potato chips with them while they're watching TV and they're not conscious of it, there's so much negativity that we're consuming that we're not even aware of. It's almost like someone who's a sleepwalker. They put on all this weight and they don't know how, and it's because they're literally not conscious that maybe they're eating while they're asleep. So our world is so negative that if you don't actually put in place a plan to kind of work off the average 500 negative calories that just come in, even if you don't seek it out, right? Just everyday exposure, then you're going to become what I would call like a negative fatty. You're going to be someone who starts to put on this kind of extra negative weight. And so it starts to change your personality. Yeah, people start to see you as somebody that's more negative, more defensive, who displays traits that, let's say again, are lower EQ, right? It brings down your EQ the more negative you are. And so most people don't realize this is actually happening to them. And so you have to be conscious of it. But there's a rule, right? We've just discussed the rule. So the rule is to be aware of it and to build in a way to burn those. So in essence, the morning prime, it's literally a way to lose weight, right? That's great. And if that's one of your bugs, super. But in a sense, you can kill two birds with one stone, because the process of thinking positive thoughts, of meditation, of prayer, of getting a workout in, of listening to something motivational, if you make sure that you're doing those workout regimens every day, that's going to counteract the negative calories that you're consuming. Putting in place the morning prime will help you stay positive. So, depending on how much negativity you're consuming, how aggressive you want to be about your change, you're going to have to go beyond the morning prime and do certain things throughout the day to burn more calories throughout the day with other emotionally intelligent exercises or things like that. That's how you do it. That's the model that you can use for almost anything that you need to change. So the last thing I want you to do is to create your morning prime exercises as it relates to your life and what you need, and write those up and journal those as well. Okay, I hope you have fun with this exercise. Thanks, guys.